I'm sure we'll have some stragglers. Hey everyone, I'm Teresa Ferguson. I am the ED of AustinUP, and we are a nonprofit community alliance, and we work on issues related to the future of aging in Austin. And one of those issues is jobs and employment for older adults. And so during COVID, that's what we're focusing on during this downtime, actually, because when the economy comes back up, people who are looking for jobs will need to pump up their efforts. And so maybe this is a time for you to do this background thinking, to prepare yourself for that job search. So that is the intent of this program and others that we're focused on, or that we're featuring on our website. Our website is austinup.org. And you can see all of our future events there. So at this time, I'm excited to have you all here today for AustinUP's first Age Circus event. I want to introduce you to Tuck Kamin. Tuck is a branding strategist that has helped companies like Southwest Airlines, Citibank, Whole Foods Market, and Sony Entertainment. He helped these companies find out how their brand can be better, can better appeal to their audience. Tuck explains that he got bit by the brand of aging. That means he was not happy at how aging is portrayed or how boomers were seeing themselves. Tuck has worked with age scientists, geropsychiatric researchers, social scientists, and others to improve the way we see ourselves as we age. Tuck wrote a book called Design Your Age, and now Tuck helps individuals design their age. And on today's Age Circus, he's got some ways to help you find your balance and learn new tricks. So here we go. Tuck?
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, get ready to move big. Find your balance. Learn new tricks. Come on, run away to the circus. The Age Circus. Here's your ringmaster, Tuck Kamin.
– Welcome to this technical time that we're in. My Mac seems to have COVID. Well, I want to thank AustinUP, and I want to thank Teresa for all the work that she does, because I know all the work that AustinUP does in terms of, we'll say, later numbered aged people. But what I want to do is I want to get something off my chest to begin with, before we get into Age Circus, and kind of tell you where I am. So this is sort of an Age Circus wrap that I'm going to talk about. Right this way, it's your special day. Once you start, you won't want to reverse it. You know, Teresa, I should have rehearsed this. Although I should look at the entrance of here's where the Age Circus is. Inside, it's a bigger tent that you might expect. And outside, what you hear about aging is a lot of dreck. No, we aren't just a bunch of happy white-haired lost in an AARP commercial. Instead, here you'll find new oxygen, and you won't turn purple. Time to imagine and experience a new landscape of what can be. Still creating, still sharing, maybe still a chance at becoming rich. Here, aging is better. Here, aging is not your bitch. Look straight into that funhouse mirror while it distorts. Tell yourself why you are great. You got to do this every morning and make it permanent. At the Age Circus, you can make your escape. Come on, don't hesitate. See an old dog, learn new tricks. One last thing. Remember this. No, I shoulda, I wish I coulda, or I woulda. No room for oughtas. Dust off and make the experience of you shine again. You'll be surprised. The world will see your worth. You'll be in demand, and you'll be a friend again. Okay. These are high production values. I know you'll all buy this. So we're going to get back into it. And Teresa.
Yes, Tuck.
Okay, well, let me get you your hat.
Okay, I need it.
You ready?
Ready.
All right.
Thanks, Tuck.
Okay, there we go. It's just excitingly smooth. All right. Now, what we're going to do here, ladies and gentlemen, okay, we've heard the circus rap. What I want you to understand is aging, you have to step into this fun house. You have to step into what I consider a hall of mirrors. No matter how old you are, no matter where you are, no matter if you're thinking about starting a job or you're thinking about just where am I going to go with the rest of my life. The world outside of the Age Circus constantly hammers you about aging, about being in decline. You are the control of your own thoughts. You are the control of how you see yourself. This is a little exercise, and I can send you a link to it. I can send you a link to it shortly after this. But what I want you to consider is I want you to go to the mirror every morning. I know this sounds like, oh my God, this sounds so corny. It's not. It's something very, very important. And you wouldn't imagine the CEOs that I've talked to across the United States and Fortune 500 companies that do this every morning. They talk about saying to themselves, I believe in myself. I believe in my abilities. Anyone else can think I'm old. I don't think I'm old. You make your own list. I'm telling you, you have charge of this. I'm going to go ahead and go to the big reveal on this. When we look at where we want to be, if we want to get a job, if we want to start a new business, we have to ask these questions. We really do. And I'm going to keep them down to 3. All right? I want you to ask yourself as you get older and as you try to create better later years, what do you really want? What do you really want in a job? What do you really want in terms of having new friends in your life? What kind of social life would you like to have? What do you really want to come into your life? All right? Now, if we're in that area about business, and again, these are very, very basics, but I find that the gold is in the most basic. The real gold mine. We think it's all these secret tricks and special things and so on. Well, there is some of that here, but if you think about what is your experience that you can bring value to others, how is there a value to yourself? Think across your career, how you've helped other people, how you've helped companies ahead. You've actually achieved things. You're not part of the walking dead if you're past 55. You aren't dead yet. God will tell you when you're dead. And then the most important part of all this comes down to, what are you going to do about it? When I worked in New York and I was in Little Italy and I got a bad pizza and there was a really heavy, kind of waiter, and I said, this is really crappy pizza. He would say to me, what are you going to do about it? I said, well, why don't you go ask the chef? We don't have a chef. We got anything in the back. All right. My point about all this is that ask yourself, what are you going to do about it in terms of taking those first steps? All right? You create your thoughts. Your thoughts create intention. Intention creates your reality. This is not woo-woo. This is not new age. This is real mental health piece here. You create your thoughts. when you watch the news of all the crap and the division that's going on and all this noise and all that other stuff outside the tent, I want you to come back in and I want you to think about when things were better for yourself, and they are better right now if you really think about it. You know, it's tough that we've got this separation. Some of us have really great health. A lot of us are going a little nuts inside. Look at me, I just had Age Circus come out of the top of my head or out somewhere else. But your thoughts, you create your thoughts, you create your intention, you create your reality. It is so important. Now, you can be your own mind reader. It's wonderful to think about, what am I going to do? What am I going to, what happens here? I want you to think about when you're at your best. I want you to try to think about, well, you know, I got up, I maybe did a little meditation, or I just got quiet, or I went outside, I took a nice walk. I got away from all the noise of headlines, of TV, of internet. And in that space, and if you're breathing and you're noticing nature, you'll be the best mind reader that you've ever had. You know those answers are inside you. So, I want to go to the part about the idea of connections. And again, this is about if people that are looking for work in the outside world, and what's extraordinary is you're going to find out in just a minute, is that you may just have to stay right where you are. You don't need to go out. People need you right there at your house where you could get work. You know, it's one of the social perks of business is going to be that you'll be able to go to the office and get out of wherever you are. But there have been some good moments of calm. I've probably thrown out so much crap in my place as a result of being here and looking at it. So there's been a positive part. I'm going to get back to connection. So I want you to think about the flying Walindas. That was an incredible acrobatic act that, as you see, they were up on top of the world here. I'm going to move something around. Bear with me. Okay. We have to look at, if we look at connections, again, this is very, very basic. You have to let it go of a sense of self-consciousness. You have to worry about not being embarrassed. You have to let that all go, rise above it all like you're on a high wire act. In those connections, it's important to consider, once you decide the kind of work that you do, that you want to do, you know, ask friends of yours, you know, if they know of any connections. Maybe there's people in school, there's people that are in college. Messenger somebody on text, on Facebook. Maybe they're former clients that you can talk to. But make a list of what you want and use those resources. You will be amazed at how many connections those other people have. I'm constantly amazed in terms of when I'm doing work, and then other people will send me a referral, or I'll be looking for a special kind of project that I'm looking for, and that somebody knows somebody. It's very, very important in terms of utilizing those connections. Now, I recently spoke to a friend of mine. She had been out of work for about 6 months. She got a job. She's making a pretty high salary, but that's because she believes she's worth it, and she is. And she told me the importance of going on LinkedIn to tell you. Go on LinkedIn and ask that guy or that woman, could I take you to lunch? Could I have coffee with you? Could we do a video chat? I know Colonel Sanders is dead, but maybe there's another guy that's managing something else there. So it's really important to have a presence on LinkedIn. And it's getting simpler and simpler to do it. What's spectacular about all that is there are YouTubes out there that are very simple. Just look for the highest number of views and see how to get your resume, get your work that's up there on LinkedIn, and start making those connections. Again, we kind of look over it, and there's something about LinkedIn that in terms of the design of it that I'm not that nuts about, but it is an incredible resource out there, and it's obviously filled with all kinds of talent hounds that are looking for people to hire. Now, I want to introduce you to somebody that I feel has gone beyond what you typically think. She's a friend of mine, and she's fearless. She's got great benefits at this company that she's at, and she's going to tell you what she's been doing. Let's see if this will play here. Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm going through mine. Bear with me here. Back to Gay.
I'm not a good retiree. I get bored, I get depressed, I don't want to get out of bed. And at the time, I guess I was 7.
See if I can get it working again. Yep. I have a little technical difficulties card that I was going to apply for here. Hold on a second. I'll show you this way.
I'm not a good retiree. I get bored, I get depressed, I don't want to get out of bed. And at the time, I guess I was 70. And I had already retired at 65 for Social Security, or 62 for Social Security, because I couldn't take it anymore. So, but I didn't realize that being retired wasn't all it's cooked up to be. It's really not a lot of fun, unless you got a lot of money and you love traveling. I don't have a lot of money, and I don't love to travel. So I decided I better get up my game. So I started taking classes on Udemy. I don't know if you know that. For $10, you can take a 5 or 6 hour class in the latest hardware technology and stuff. So that's that Udemy? Yeah, Udemy, U-D-E-M-Y. You just pay them you get one of their specials, like around Memorial Day and 4th of July, they'll give you a $10, $9.99 special for take a class. You take a class in Python programming, you can take a class in, in my case, I needed to get up with all the latest hardware because I was still back in FireWire days. And so I had to, so I took A++, you can get certified, put that on your resume. What it basically means is that you understand the latest computers and how they work and what they need. And yeah, and it's a cheap way to go. You're going to go back to college and take out a loan or anything. So I took a couple of those courses. I have a whole bunch of them that I've already paid for. So every time they have a $9.99 sale, I jump on them. Worked for Google, YouTube TV for about a year and a half. You know, what do you have to lose? Just go for it. You know.
So what's spectacular about Gay is the fact that she says just to go for it. And right now she's working for Google. And the wonderful thing about Gay that she informed me and that I've been listening to on different podcasts. I listened to a podcast called Pivot with Scott Gallagher and Kara Swisher. It's a podcast on Apple iTunes. Is the customer service is going to become even more important. We think all this AI is going to take over. It's going to be outsourced more to India and so on. No. Those companies that are really working well with humans and technology that provide a very, very human personal experience are those that are going to succeed. We see that with Apple. 9 times out of 10, if you happen to go on Apple or even I'll say Amazon or Google, you'll see how those companies, their customer service is extraordinary. The point that I'm getting to is that Gay said there are hundreds, if not thousands, of customer service jobs. And in that special category, maybe you want to do something in an art store company, or you want to provide pets, supplies, some area that you might think is good if you're into petroleum engineering. That whole customer service area online is going to be more and more important. And this is usually handled in an audio fashion and not necessarily on a video. However, I recently saw that a tax service like H&R Block, they were putting a person on there when you paid a little bit more. You got a video chat in terms of how to prepare your taxes. Now, forget about the fact, and Gay wanted me to really impress this upon you, about her getting these degrees in terms of computers. That's just her thing. She's been doing computers, I don't know, since the 1970s, and it was always something she felt familiar with. But she told me that the home run for her resume, was going on Udemy, UDEMY.com. And there's other services that are out there. Instead of having to, you know, buy a degree from the University of Arizona online. I don't know how much that is. But Udemy would have specials, and there's other groups that are like Udemy that you can learn how to sort of polish that trade that you really are interested in or that you really love and come up to speed. And we all have to wish her a happy birthday next month. She'll be 76.
I'm not a good.
Bear with me. Okay. So these were Gay's magic trick secrets. She's one of these people that's tolerant. She says, if you got a nut on the other line, just try to laugh about it. She loves people. She gets herself up to speed with her certification from Udemy, and we know that there is more that's out there. It is scary, but how do you make your life less scarier? More and more you're going to see, even as a result of COVID-19, how much mental health is important with aging. You've got to tame your own wild, vicious animals. Those things in your head about fear, guilt, remorse, loneliness. And the most ferocious animal that is there is your mouth. You know, I'm too old. You know, I'm not pretty. I'm not handsome. I'm really stupid compared, you know, to those other people out there. I sit with a lady that is at the Apple store, and Apple has got to make these, and you can be a PC person, you've got to make these tablets and computers and phones easier or nobody's going to buy them. We got 76 million baby boomers at different levels that are coming online every day. And if these things are not easier, if you cannot find your way out of being intimidated, think about when you came up against some real challenges earlier in your life. This is small stuff. You can get over that. You can call Apple and have them figure it out, help you kind of one-to-one. My point is that all that noise and rumination that's in your head, how do you break it? And this is kind of an interesting thing. So this is not an ad for my book, Design Your Age, but in my book, Design Your Age, I worked with a sports psychologist, and he was telling me about when he's working with his players and at NFL, and they're having problems, how they could get a thought out of their head. And he taught them, I'm not sure, actually, scientifically, I don't know how this works. If you have a negative thought that's ruminating, you point your chin at the ceiling as best you can. You ask another thought to come to your head. You know, maybe it's like popsicles. It's like, how high is the tallest ladder? Anyway, the point of physically doing that will break that rumination. But this is something that I think that we all need to be able to work on as we age, to be able to understand, I don't want that. And that's the same thing that a friend of mine told me about the mirror. If that other stuff comes into your head when you're doing the mirror, you have to say to yourself, stop it. These sound like simple, ridiculous little basics, but they are very, very serious pieces of work that you can do to help yourself. You've got to transform those animals inside your head, that they all cooperate, they're all peaceful, that there's a lion that's looking at a zebra, but he's not going to eat it. You have to learn to balance your own fears. And you can do this in so many different ways. You know, I don't know how many of you, if you can raise your hands, if any of you meditate. Even if you don't meditate, how many of you get quiet? Just find some space outside, sit in a chair, you know, look at the grass, look at the birds, especially right now when there's less traffic. Just how do you shut things out? Right now, there is a torrent of data, of information, of TV shows, of internet that we are infused with right now. And in the middle of that mosh pit that you're jumping out into that crowd in the audience, you got to find where is your monk, you know, how to get away from it all. So go from mosh pit to monk. It's very, very important. And I'm saying find a beautiful piece of music on YouTube and just let it come through your room, your apartment, your house. All right, now you can consider being a consultant. Maybe you don't want to go to work from home, or you can start your own business. Right now, there's a lot of people that are going to be starting new businesses. And data shows that the most successful businesses are started by 50 and 60-year-olds. They aren't Mark Zuckerbergs. They are actually, and I can show you the numbers, and also this group that's down below called SCORE, they can show you. If you want to, you know, some people were making masks, or they thought about something else that they wanted to make, and they started to do it. And they just slowly pursued on it while they had a little job. One of the things I will tell you about as a consultant is this is a very fantastic little book called Never Too Old to Get Rich by Carrie Hannon. You can go online and see some of her YouTubes. And again, it profiles a lot of really wonderful stories about how people were able to get themselves back into gear and how they really said, you know what I think about aging? Blank, 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 censored about aging. Here's where I'm going to go. Here's where I get excited. Here's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to figure out if there's a way, maybe even getting rich. So you've got to be a better age juggler. I'm going to go back to this thing with these three pieces. And this applies as well to Paul Baltle's lifespan development theories. As we get older, it's important to crush down our goals, maybe 2 to 3 goals. We're going to be much more satisfied. We're going to be much less aggravated. Within those 3 goals, you break them down into little victories that you want to do. And this sounds so simple, but it's life-changing. You get these little victories, you gain a sense of confidence as you move through this. And what Paul Baltles did with lifespan development theory, he was a German psychologist. I think he passed away in the 90s, and his wife continued his work as well, is that he felt through every part of your life you grow. I have an uncle that's about to turn 96, and he's still frigging curious. I'm so blessed by having my Uncle Max, or Uncle Babe as he's called, because he's the babe of all the brothers there. He is constantly curious about what is going on in the world. And he always wants to study things. And he's doing, whether it's jigsaw puzzles or just, he'll love to create a joke as he's talking on the phone to you. He's one of these miracle individuals, but he always wants to see something new, which is what my mother said to me when I was growing up. She would say, go see something new. You know, you're going to shake all this dust and all this stuff out that we're getting on the outside of this tent. So, thing that you never forget is move your body, strengthen later life. I'm going to tell you that there's a lady, Ernestine Shepard. She'll be 83. She's a weightlifter. I know that you don't think there's many people out there, but there are. And she's an African-American lady that in her late 50s, if not 60s, she decided to try to start to lift weights and became a champion weightlifter. Now I'm going, oh my God, I can't be a weightlifter. But if you just get some small 5-pound little weights, this is what's important. It's important getting a job because it's going to be pushing blood to your brain And you know, whether it's very, very simple yoga, just try it, but be consistent about it, and get and start, you know, start eating more. You know, I'm gonna say start eating more greens. This is a lady down on the left. Her name is Katie Sadowin, who's known as Catherine Birnbach, one of the strongest women. She's holding up her husband, and what's so extraordinary about her? In her 60s, she and her husband opened up a restaurant in New York. It was in New York or it was in Philadelphia. And they needed a bouncer, and Katie had no problem in her 60s and 70s being the bouncer. So it is so very, very important for you to go on a walk. Just a walk. And I'm saying, if you can like speed that little walk up, and these are all stair steps. I don't care what age you are, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. It's important to try to do. And you have to understand, I'm going to go back to this again, and this is probably a major theme through Design Your Age in terms of trying to create a new landscape. It's like, what is your kryptonite as you age? It's believing the negative stories about yourself it's believing negative stories about decline as you age. That's all that we've seen, that's all we've heard. Well, you know what? I know that a whole group of boomers and older are not going to buy into that anymore. In fact, there's some really amazing changes that are going on that are out there. But I'm gonna try to wrap this up and say, these are the secrets of the world's oldest age acrobat. Like Paul Baltel says, reduce your goals to a manageable size. Practice good mental health. If you can find a therapist, you know, popping up everywhere right now are life coaches. That's a whole other story. But what I'm saying is that if you find someone that's experienced in helping another person, it is so vital for you to have some kind of feedback from a professional. And at the Anxiety and Stress Center at University of Texas, it's a great place for you to find that. It's important for you to try to meet younger people. You need to avoid an age-restricted environment. We're going to see these sort of so-called independent living communities start to transition. And we're going to see that there'll be a healthcare facility, but there'll be younger families there. It will be a more normal environment. The most progressive, the most successful communities throughout history were age diverse, ethnic, faith-based, and that's going to happen. Right now at senior living facilities and so on, and I understand the importance of it. If you have a spouse or you have a medical condition, and you have a parent, I do understand. I have a sense of sympathy about that. You're going to see that, for example, what's happened is right now they're off by about 40% because boomers don't want to move into it. So what I can suggest to you is try a meetup online. I've been doing a writing group that meets online called Sit Down, Shut Up, and Write. And basically, it's stunning. It's online. It's on Zoom. And we all get together and talk for, I don't know, 25 minutes. And then everybody writes. You turn off your video camera. You turn off your sound. It's incredible. And that's that thing about socialization, even online. And then people are so wonderful in terms of how they want to be with each other. So try an online meetup. I don't care if it's bridge. I don't care if it's like the tactical battles of World War II. Go on meetup.com and see what you can find. Of course, I'm going to sound like your mother in terms of eat more greens, get out in the sunshine, and get an umbrella otherwise. It's important to find a friend and don't hang out with naysayers. You know, my mother said that most of her friends were 30 years younger because she didn't want to hear Mrs. Johnson talk about, you have this little thing back here. Or maybe she said she was sick of that. So she wanted to hang out, and she got a sense of vibrancy by hanging out with younger people. I'm going to go back to this other point here about mental blocks. I think this is very, very important. When I talk about the anxiety stress clinic at UT, and I'm not advertising them in a big way, but one thing that I like about what they're doing, and there's other things here, is that it doesn't matter how much money you have. It can be free, or it can be up to, you know, I guess $165. It's important for you to find someone to be able to talk to about how that way that you think and how you accomplish anything. It might be a fresh bit of menthol air coming through your brain, but the idea is to get over it. Be smart about this. Again, you would not believe the most high-performing people and how they have a consultant that they may see or talk to that helps them understand how to move that boardroom, how to get that product out of it, how to be able to transition after COVID to bring their company together. Seriously, that is some of the work that I've learned from a lot of these geriatric, psychiatric researchers. Phenomenal stuff out there. So, I'm going to ask you what you really want to do. We can go into questions in a minute. And then, what is it in your experience that you can bring value to others? If they didn't see you, if you're worried about, oh, I look too old, I don't look like a young person, I'm going to tell you what Gay told me as well. She said that, Tuck, I've been through things in my life that the younger people hadn't, and they were fraught with fear. They didn't know how to manage it. Yes, there were some smart people that were doing things that were younger, but when there was this whole level of obstacles that came out of the blue that they didn't know what to do, they looked to me about what the hell I was going to do. And the other part of this is, as I end on this thing, is what are you going to do about it? Okay? Just write down, if you can, right now, just write down one thing for me that says, I'm going to do this one thing. Please, I'm just asking you, what are you going to do to move forward? And I'll be around at Tuck at Design Your Age. If you want to ask me any kind of questions, I'll be happy to help. I truly believe in these events that AustinUP is doing, the really hard work that Teresa's doing is fundamental and also just tremendous work. Okay, we're going to go to your questions, and then I'm going to show you a little something. This is a certificate that if you send me an email at Design Your Age, I'll make sure you get this. Tuck at Design Your Age. It's a way of reminding yourself to tame your wild animals of aging. The fear, the guilt, the remorse, the loneliness, and how your power animals can become gratitude, patience, forgiveness, which will lead to purpose. All of these words I went through with a number of different researchers to make sure that I had the right types of words and so on.
Tuck, I have a question.
Yep.
So you talk about goals. So often what I hear at our job fairs, our 50+ job fairs, is I can do everything. Someone who's had a long career, I can do everything. I can do anything in a new job. How do you figure out what goals? How do you narrow that list down to a set of realistic goals?
Okay.
Do you have any techniques?
There's a couple of steps here. Okay. First of all, if this person feels that way and they honestly feel that way, suddenly they have maybe a sense of confidence about that. I can do this. And they need to be able to list down exactly what those problem-solving things are. Okay, that's on the lowest end of this. All right? And then on the medium end of it, they need to actively put down what obstacles that they have overcome in those, what wins they had, Teresa, in terms of those things. Now, on the way down on this other end, there's a thing called the Berkman. There's a thing called Myers-Briggs. There's other types of tests. I prefer, in a way, I prefer in a way Myers, the Berkman. And it basically, here, let me tell you what it did. I gave it to my daughters, which you don't typically give the Berkman to kids. It's used in a corporate structure. But it identified when they were in high school where their interests were. My youngest daughter works for the Dallas Arboretum and outdoors and things like that. Well, when she took it, it said, this friend of mine said, well, it looks like she could be a farmer. I told my daughter, and she was a junior in high school, and she said, Dad, I am not going to be a farmer. So then, as we say today, she's ended up working in terms of nature. And a year after that test, she was working at a farm. So again, what I'm saying is that there's a way that's out there. The other part of it is, if it's important for you to be able to talk to others, really, really talk to others about the kind of work that you would love doing, okay? And bounce that off of them in terms of the achievement and get feedback. Everybody has their own design. One size does not fit all. This is the biggest issue when we talk about things like that. When we dial into that person, there's a series of real steps. If you went and you pitched yourself to that company, what would you say? You know, if it's a waiter that comes in with all kinds of dishes and everything on the menu, you can't eat all those plates first. So the person has got to get realistic when they say, I can do everything, I can do everything. Well, I don't think you can eat all those plates and put them in your mouth at one time. I mean, it's just as simple as that. But on the other end of it, I have these things like the Berkman, like the Anvil, like the Myers-Briggs, and so on. These things have been out there for over 60 years, maybe 70 years. And they are some phenomenal tools that are there. They can range from anywhere from, I think it's like $300 for the Berkman and so on. And then you get a Berkman analyst to look at it. I took it and I was kind of disappointed because it mirrored back exactly what I'm doing. So it was like, there wasn't any really great shakes. I thought it could be an astronaut. So, but all I'm saying is that there are certain diagnostic tools out there that if you really look for them, you probably can find where you're best at. The point where you want to see is, where would I be most happy and most effective? Because even if you go and said, I can do everything, and then you go out there and you friggin' hate it, you know, but you've got to take the first step, because also when you start to re-engage, you don't know it until you know it. So you've got to go out there, and you may go through some transitions, but you're going to go, I got a clue, I got a clue, I got a clue. So you didn't have to spend all that money for the Berkman or whatever it is. But my point is, you've got to go ahead and try something that's out there. This issue that I'm saying about, I mean, to me, it's phenomenal about this area about customer service. But I feel like there's all these jobs that are out there, and I think that there's going to be more that are on the internet.
Good, thank you. We have another question. It's a comment. I appreciate the word connection versus networking. Networking seems like I have to be sugary sweet. Any tips on finding connections with a new customer base or those with a similar passion?
I'm going to let you in on a secret, okay? We're going to have this online for just a little bit. There is an extraordinary group I'd like you to ask to go to attend. It's called House of Genius. They're out of commission right now because of COVID. Once a month, an individual comes and they present a new idea, a new product, a new software, a new food, and they go to House of Genius for feedback. Now you sit in this audience, all right, and the key to House of Genius is, this is probably the most extraordinary networking thing I've ever seen in my life. But I hate that word network because I think it's just like, you know, I'm going to give you some FaceTime. I'm going to throw up. So anyway, in the audience of House of Genius, there's probably about 18 people. The rule is you do not tell what your last name is, nor do you say what you do. okay? So there is a system that goes around, you ask these questions, you give them feedback. Only at the very, very end of the evening does it go around the room and people say what they do. And the first time that I went, there was a couple that was there that I thought were like investors. I mean, I thought that they were startup investors. They were in between jobs bussing tables at Jason's Deli. My point is that if you go to Meetup and you find some other people of interested means and y'all are talking about issues or whatever, that's a fantastic way because you're learning and you might make some connections that way. If you go to House of Genius, and I'll get you an invitation, it has to be by somebody that has attended and they send out an invitation, and then you can send out an invitation to someone else. You only go once. But it is so extraordinary, the people that come to this. I've been amazed, and I've made a couple of presentations there, but that's that sort of anti-networking thing that I think that you're talking about, that I believe.
I've attended a House of Genius session, and I like that it's multi-generational too. You know, all ages. So yeah, that is good. And I think you can find out more. There's a House of Genius website. You may be able to ask for an invitation.
Right.
Then it takes a while for you to actually get invited to a session. So yeah, I do recommend that. And that isn't a good an idea because it doesn't feel so fake. It's like everybody is learning right along with you, and everyone's equal because you don't know their titles or what they do. So yeah, very good recommendation. John in the group says, take a bold action and the universe will rise up to meet you. Try saying hello to everyone you see, which is lots of fun.
I want to tell you something about that. That is such a spectacular thing because my father had a furniture store, and it's still around. It's in Victoria, Texas. And Dad would say to me, say hello to everyone you see or meet. You know, don't be a nut about it. But you know, don't stick your head while somebody's having a cup of coffee into their face. But he said, at the end of your first conversation could be a lifelong friend. And this is even more important as we've had this sort of inward thing during COVID. I think it's important. It's like, what I've noticed is you'll see on lots of charts, there's this chart about aging, that as you get older, there's some part of it, which is the happiness chart, believe it or not. As you get older, there's a part of you that says, I don't give a damn. I'm going to be myself. And to finally be yourself and not worry about what other person's thinking, even if the other person looks at you and goes, what is that about? You know, that's their problem, that's not your problem. Right. So I had to respond to, you know, that say hello to everyone.
That's excellent. Susie, yes, go ahead and unmute yourself. She had a question about LinkedIn.
Yeah. First, I want to say, Tuck, that I am a mental health professional with like 50 years experience, and everything you said about managing anxiety is spot on. I've never heard the chin thing though before, so thank you for that. My experience with LinkedIn or other social media professional connection platforms like that is if I put my presence on there, I get overloaded with random contacts from people I don't know from Adam. So what do you do with that? You know, because if you like them, it looks like you're endorsing them, and I don't want to endorse someone who's in the mental health field, especially, that I don't know.
No. But and I apologize because I can't, and please forgive me, I can't see your name.
Okay.
Your name is?
Susie.
Susie. So Susie.
Susie.
Susie?
Susie.
Okay, good. Susie, it really depends on what you're going in there for. Susie, why would you want to be on? What is it that you're trying to do on LinkedIn?
Just the things that you mentioned. Like right now, I'd like to talk about people who would like to manage anxiety hypnotically, because I have 4 decades of experience with hypnosis.
Right. So I think it's important that even in your profile, I think it'd be fantastic for you to say, due to the overwhelming nature of the invitations that I get, please do not take offense. If I can find you the answer, if I can find a connection, I'll be happy to do so. My point is that if that's the way that you want to do it, the only other thing I'd say to you is that, you know, if you can do something like this, like a YouTube, just to talk to somebody about those issues. And what's fantastic is you could be talking about how LinkedIn, you know, you wish there was another part of LinkedIn because you realize about how important mental health is with business. This is something that I pray will become more normalized, the work that you are actually doing. And I mean, I have a couple of clients that are in the mental health field. And so my point is that I see this extraordinarily necessary. The fact is, I think there may be and I'm not talking about a defensive tactic, but I think there may be a way in which you can say that. And even if you wanted to put a YouTube on there, you would say, I want everyone to understand that I get inundated by requests, and if I have a chance, I'll be able to answer yours. If I don't take an offense to it, because this is the best information that I can offer you at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Another suggestion on LinkedIn is sharing articles. That kind of displays your thought leadership, and then people comment on that and see you as a thought leader, as an expert in your field. I think that's a good thing too.
Oh, I guess, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So other questions, feel free to unmute yourselves to ask a question. I mean, again, the question that we get is transferring skills. So how do I get this all the time? So if I've been an accountant for 25 years and now I want to do something different, and I have the wherewithal to do that. I've taken a course. I want to do something else. I have this expertise. How do you transfer skills from one long-time career to something new, to a new venture?
Okay, so the only thing that I would do is I would say, I would love to be able to, take that information and go to the headhunters that I know, and I'll be happy to respond to that. That's one of those that's sort of that transferring those skills. That's kind of out of my range. Mm-hmm. But again, you've got to be able to define how. You've got to try to sort of pre-test yourself, and if you can find some sort of dramatic representation of how you could transfer those skills, showing that you're competent in it, and that would show someone that you could handle it, then I think that'd be fantastic. So that might be through testimonials or endorsement by friends or someone that you know that works in the industry that says, I think that Rebecca or Tom or, they would be really fantastic, somebody that's well respected. So I mean, that's the only thing that comes to my mind, but it's a really good question, and I'll be happy to look into that and send back some kind of.
Oh, that's fine. I know you. And there's another question that I know you give advice to corporations. Do you do personal coaching as well?
Well, what I've been doing is helping individuals design their age. So that means it's pretty intense. I'm not a life coach. I'm not a therapist. But what I do is I work with a whole group of different life designers that have all the qualifications and so on. So I help people design their age, and it's a process, and it involves different kinds of tools that help identify where they are, and then I get lots of help from the team that I work with that are in these sort of specialties, whether it's in whether it's in nutrition, or it's in exercise, or it's in psychotherapy. There was a friend of mine that introduced me to a lady that was 73, and she wanted to have her art out there again. And I brought in an artist that was able to post her work online. And then I tried to think a little bit more creative, and I found 2 elementary schools where she could work as an assistant to an art teacher. And what had happened is that socialization started bubbling up into her as a result of doing it. And then I introduced her to a number of other ladies that were in her age range and younger. And then it was kind of a reawakening to a certain extent for this person. But that all depends on, that really depends on the design of what that person's trying to do. And the thing that I've learned, and the same thing with Age Circus, I'll be honest with you, I'm not offering a buffet here. I'm not offering a cafeteria. You really have to do all these things. And that's what I found when I did Design Your Age, is that I will offer sort of a menu of items, but you've got to eat everything on the menu. So, but it's pretty dialed in, pretty tight to that individual.
Gotcha. We have one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. John, you had asked, is it a question or an observation on university classes?
Yeah, it's both. I'm graduating from University of Texas, San Antonio in August with an MBA. I love the online classes, but I have to say there is nothing like being surrounded by young learners in a university setting. I just wanted to share that University of Texas has, if you're over 65, you can take any class in any school for free as an audit. And it's just been amazing for me. Now, I wanted the face-to-face, but now that there's COVID, we're online. We ended up online, but I'm sure at some point it's going to reopen. And I just wanted to say my last year was just incredible, working with 20, 30, 40 somethings. I'll be 61 in June. And it was just the best experience of my life.
And John, here's the thing I want to tell you, that I think it's fantastic you say that, but was that online that you did that?
No, it was all last year was face-to-face in a university setting.
I have to tell you that it's weird, but there is a lot of intimacy in terms of people sharing online. That's why I push this idea of meetups. And I believe that that's going to proliferate. I think there's going to be new hardware. There's going to be new software. Tuck isn't going to have to enlarge the screen and stop everybody, and they're going to go like, oh. You know, so I mean, there's going to be a lot of new things out there as a result of this. And I'm one of the, I don't say that, I don't think of myself as a half full glass. I think of myself as, the glass keeps filling up every time I put it down. But I really think that there's going to be new types of software and hardware because, for example, in about another 2 months, I'm going to do Age Circus with pre-recorded things and make this thing flow and so on. But I don't have to, you don't have to fly in to see this, experience and so on. I think the idea of getting into those university things where you can interchange with people of different ages is so, so vital, so, so critical. There are some things that I see that are coming in which we can get older and younger people together to make those, make it sort of co-rewarding. There's a project that I'm working on with a fellow in North Carolina called the Illumination Center. And basically, it's the cost of university is so extraordinarily high. Wouldn't it be great if you could sit down with a master of age that was, a chef? I don't know what your background is. What, John? What kind of work did you do before?
Oh, we lost John.
Okay. But anyway, my point is that there's an opportunity for new experiences where older individuals will feel a little bit better about themselves, and younger people want to know what they have learned. I actually did a test on this at House of Genius, and it's called Masters of Age. So I think that there's an opportunity there. And I think that there's an opportunity where it's a way, possibly even where we self-monetize that for the individual within an organization that are not typical kinds of, here's what I would tell you is that we've seen these master classes. I think there's variations of those master classes that we'll start to see rise for people that are older that want to be able to pass on their knowledge, and they're not that, you know, they're not Robert De Niro or, you know, or somebody that's a lot older.
Great. So Tuck, do you want to, as we close, before we close, do you want to give away a copy of your book?
Oh yeah. I'd love to. Now, how do we do this?
Well, I have a question I'd like to ask the group. Has anyone ever worked in a circus, a real live circus?
Anybody had a family member?
All right, well, that question didn't work. Okay, so the next question is, has anyone lived in an exotic place in their lives?
Okay.
Well,
I would say this. When you say circus, put into the chat box, what's the first word that comes to your mind? When I say circus.
Las
Besides
Vegas.
elephant.
Big Top. Kangaroo. Animal rights. That's right. Clowns. Fly. Magic, amazement, fun.
Okay, Bruce wins. That was so
Totally subjective. Congratulations,
Bruce. So I'll get with Teresa, and the one thing I'll say about my book, Design Your Age, is that there's a new book that I'm doing, which will be out later this year, and I think it'll be a lot more fun. I've stopped trying to sell my book on Amazon. There's some used copies that are there, but there's it's easier to buy the books through me and less expensive than doing it with Amazon. So, but I'll be happy to help you. You don't have to buy a book from me. So you can ask me any other questions later at Tuck at Design Your Age. And if you want to let me share the screen one more time. And if you want to get this there we go. I'll send you a PDF of it. Just send me an email at Tuck at Design Your Age. And it's something that might do a little motivation for you. Again, Teresa and AustinUP, thank y'all so very much, and thank everyone for being here today. Because this I think will be this is the beginning of the next Age Circus and so on. But thank you all. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. We have another virtual job fair if anyone's interested next Thursday, May 28th, and the time is 2 o'clock. We'll have 3 employers talking about their job openings, their company. And it's a good, even if you're not interested, I think the employers are the U.S. Census, Peak Performers, which is a job placement firm, and then also Texas Home Health. And it's a good, even if you're not interested in those companies, it's a good way to hear what recruiters are looking for in job applicants. And they definitely are looking for older applicants, which is cool. So with that, I'll say thank you very much for being here. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks, Tuck.